Hi. I'm Arthur. I've been on a kick recently. Something kind of fun, where I'm looking into xenospecies of the Imperium of Mankind and just kind of seeing which one has the best narrative potential for spookiness. I've been pretty open about the fact that I think a lot of 40k as a setting has potential to show horror in a light that not a lot of other settings can have, and opens the discussion up for a lot of people for different topics. So I've been covering some of the more basic stuff right now. A few weeks back, I covered the flayed ones, and this week, I'm covering one I genuinely think about a lot. Probably one of the best examples of why the Tyranid hive mind is one of the biggest threats to the Imperium of Mankind as a whole. Outside of the whole endless multitude of buggies that can appear out of nowhere, there is this oddity that I adore. Something that you could consider one of the most dangerous but underutilized predators in the entirety of the Tyranid species. You know its name, it is simply the humble Lictor. I adore this thing. Look at it. It's perfect. Perfect in every way, down to the last minute detail. It's the ultimate assassin bug, and I'm such a fan for when they use these things in stories, because there is just such an interesting wave of weird bullshit you can do with them. Before I break down what a Lictor is and why I think they are interesting, I just want to say, did you guys know I have merch? I try to keep it a little humble on here and not push too much of this kind of crap down your throat, but I do gotta support myself and my artists somehow, so yeah, I actually do have merch, and it's actually high quality shit. It would mean the world to me if you would pick up something of these items, and hell, if you pick it up, join the public Discord, and at me in said Discord with what you get, I might feature you in one of these videos. It's nice to see people supporting me, and I really appreciate it. Oh, and yeah, there is a public Discord. It's always in the description of all of my videos. A lot of you don't seem to notice that, which is kind of weird. Feel free to show up. I actually hang out in there quite a lot more than you'd expect. Me shilling aside, let's get into this. The Lictor is often referred to as a Vanguard organism, which basically means it is deployed in a category of organism that is meant to have a lot of decent adaptations for survivability and scouting at base and not requiring much change. It has decently strong armored hide. It has the ability to camouflage itself at will. It also has as many built-in stealth organs and adaptations that a creature can have as possible, and this makes it so that you will almost never know it's there unless it wants you to know it's there. So people don't often understand how crazy this can be. In this future of sci-fi bullshit whatever, you can often see stealth as a bit of a numbers game, if you will, if you catch my drift. Like, if you don't have the most advanced tech to turn yourself practically invisible, then natural camo is probably not gonna do as much, you dig? Like, Space Marines have cloaks that can make it look like they're a part of the scenery. Assassins from the Imperial Assassinorum can naturally just blend into things, and even for, say, the Calidus Assassin, they can change their physical body. Eldar Scouts and Rangers can zip in and out of portals sometimes, depending on which unit it is, and they even have, like, invisibility tech. So the ability to just naturally camouflage yourself doesn't seem that impressive in comparison to the advanced technology of man. So what makes the Lictors so dangerous with just stolen bits and no technology? To answer this question, let me ask you a question. Did you know that you can't hear owls flying? Bit of an oddity, really. Due to the serrated edges of the ends of their flight feathers, it actually significantly reduces the drag that their feathers create when they flap their wings, and it causes significantly less noise as a byproduct. It's actually kind of cool, as several studies have been conducted that the feathers of their body moving at high speeds, even on the upper end of what they can fly, still make little to no noise. It's a predator adaptation, so that they can sneak up on entities in the middle of the night and find things to eat. Another animal fact. Did you know that a lot of cephalopods, like octopus and cuttlefish, actually have the ability to not just change the color of their bodies to match their environment, but change the texture, or at least the appearance of the texture of their skin to resemble the ground they're hiding in? This is also especially interesting because in the cuttlefish's case, from what we understand, cuttlefish are actually colorblind. So they naturally can just just detect the color of the world around them and be able to stealth into it. Here's another good example. There is an octopus in this image. I'm not kidding. Side tangent. Speaking of images, can you see the lizard in this photo? Because I fucking can't. Yeah, this is a type of gecko that can blend in almost perfectly with the types of trees that are in its environment to avoid predators and hide to capture bugs and whatnot. So imagine if you took every single thing that I mentioned and put it on a 9-foot tall praying mantis that, side note, can steal your memories by eating your goddamn brain out of your head, which it wants to do, by the way. One of the main purposes of being a lictor is to hide and target generals in order to steal their military information, which is absolutely horrifying. They are hyper-specialized in order to crack open skulls and drink your brains out, but don't get it twisted, they are one of the most dangerous and frightening Tyranids, not because they can crack open a boy with the cold ones. In my opinion, I honestly think the scariest thing about the Lictor is that, unlike about 90% of the Tyranid hordes that land on planets, the Lictor has been gifted a degree of sentience as well as a degree of free will, which basically means that they are given the ability to be disconnected from the hive mind whenever they so choose or when it is in the discretion of the hive mind. Now, this serves sort of a twofold idea where they have hyper-advanced prey-finding abilities that allow them to operate at almost peak efficiency even if they are disconnected from the hive mind. And two, it's because psychers can sometimes detect the presence of the hive mind, so being cut off from it actually will allow it to hide better, but it also is able to manifest something that not a lot of Tyranids can have: malice. Now, I'm not saying the hive mind isn't a unfeeling, unthinking thing that derives all of its points of existence from just wanting to eat and consume, but most of the time that's all we can see, when in fact there is actually several people on like what I can describe as only as a Tyranid hive mind shit list. The hive mind actually hates individual people and can recognize them. I know librarian Tigurius of the Ultramarines is one of the people that absolutely must die if a Tyranid sees it, and I know it also despises Mephiston for a lot of what it did on Ball, but with the Lictor it's on a smaller scale, where it can have this sort of psychopathic empathy towards people, where it can recognize their emotions, especially after consuming enough brains, and adapt from there. The Devastation of Ball had a Lictor as one of its protagonists, where every few chapters it would follow the perspective of the individual Lictor, and because of that, we got to see a very alien but very cruel perspective on how something like this would even act. And hell, you sometimes forget that every Tyranid is actually a composite of multiple different living organisms and not just one single creature with different bits stolen from other creatures. The hive mind weaponizes different organisms in order to benefit individual creatures. The way I see it is it's sort of like a beneficial parasitism. I believe the term is mutualism, where both cause negatives and both cause benefits to each other. Because in the long run, a lot of people tend to forget that Tyranid bioforms, unless they are specifically constructed to do so, are not meant to last long drawn-out conflicts. They are given organ and biological redundancies for the sake of a singular purpose. If they cannot achieve this purpose, they usually die within a set period of time simply because of it. Why do you think that the larger Tyranids have like literal smokestacks on their body? It's because in order to make something violent like a Carnifex work, you need to give it a metabolism cranked so high that it's basically going to burn itself out if it didn't have vents. We don't talk about Old One Eye, by the way, I will say. That one was kind of weird. It got brain damaged so hard that like it could regenerate forever and could not die, but you know, I digress. But the thing that's also interesting about this is, like, even though they die, they're dragged to the melting pits and then brought back as new Tyranids after they've been recycled, which is neat and dark. But with Lictors, they tend to go above and beyond just the idea of a single-minded scout organism. Personally, I think scout is not a word that describes them well, as they are more assassin bugs that are usually used to the best of their ability when they are destabilizing the infrastructure of a massive society in order for the Tyranids to begin their invasion properly. They will hunt, but the important part is they will also not. They can lay dormant for weeks, months, maybe years, and reawaken when the time is right. They are self-sustained creatures that can move silently and hide in the oddest of places. Think the xenomorphs from Alien, and you have yourself an exact idea as to how terrifying the weakest Lictor would be. Wiry muscles and a profound idea as to how to upset people as much as possible. But even that is not enough, because on a whim, the Lictor can actually end its own life if it means furthering the goals of the hive mind. I remember the Lictor from the devastation of Baal removed its own arms and crawled into a generator in order to destroy it to bring down the void shields of the Arx Angelicus during the invasion of Baal. It killed itself painfully in the process without any hesitation, which I think is super interesting that they are given sentience and a bit of free will, but are willing to still operate within the hive mind's bounds. I think that is very goddamn scary. Though it is funny that the only planet they have trouble being on is Caretaker, but like, let's not split hairs. That's a planet filled with every clone of an 80s action hero that ever existed. You can't expect them to win in a jungle fight, you know? So, to summarize, the Lictor is a perfect assassin, able to hunt, kill, die, and consume information in the same breath, and be one of the most vital assets to a Tyranid fleet. They can hide in the shadows as easily as you could breathe. There's a reason why the Majoris, God, I still can't say that goddamn word, why this temple tried to use Lictor and Genestealer DNA in order to make the perfect assassin for the Imperium. And that also brings up another point that I want to bring up. You might be able to see a Lictor on the tabletop and see it as a stealthy bug, but in the lore, if you ever saw a Lictor yourself, you might as well count yourself among the dead, as a Lictor will only show itself if it wants you to see it. There is no accident. There will be no slip up, and in your case, there will be no encore. I once upon a time actually tried to make a Lictor and Stealth Nid army pre-10th edition, but it ended up falling through and I just didn't really want to paint that many Hormagaunts, and I ended up selling my Tyranids. Maybe I'll pick them up again because I really like the new Lictor and Deathleaper models. They are nice, but what do you all think about the Lictor and the sheer terror it represents? Let me know in the comments. It's genuinely one of the coolest Nids you can have. And if I were to cover any of the other Tyranids or any other specific unit in another army, what would you like it to be? Make sure to let me know. Alongside that, special thanks to my channel members for supporting me. With you, I'm able to not die and feed myself, which is kind of important, I've been told. And if you want to support me as well as gain access to additional content or early content, then become a channel member today. Thanks once again for watching, and no, I'm not going to talk about the Neurolictor and the weirdos online who want nothing more than to have it invade their homes.